The trial chamber of Citadel Prime sparkled with an antiseptic gleam that reflected the Galactic Union's obsession with order. Captain Alara Vance stood at attention, her Earth Defense Force uniform crisp despite her inner turmoil. She maintained a neutral expression as Judge Tlork, a tall Xyloshan with iridescent scales and multiple eye stalks, read the charges against her. Captain Alara Vance of Earth, you stand accused of severe violations of cultural sensitivity protocol Gamma, the judge's translator intoned with mechanical precision. The evidence shows that during the diplomatic reception with the Cathar delegation, you stated, and I quote, "Your color-changing scales would make excellent leopard print fashion accessories on Earth." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Several Cathar representatives in attendance bristled visibly, their scales flashing warning patterns of deep crimson and black. Alara resisted the urge to roll her eyes. "With all due respect, Your Honor, it was meant as a compliment. On Earth, leopard print is considered." Silence. Plork's voice boomed. The Cathar do not appreciate being compared to decorative items. Their scales are sacred organs of communication and emotional expression, which I would have known if the diplomatic briefing had included that particular cultural taboo, Alara muttered. Plork's eye stalks swiveled in her direction. "Did you say something, Captain?" "No, Your Honor. Just clearing my throat." The judge continued. "The court finds that this offense, while perhaps not malicious, demonstrates a dangerous ignorance of xenocultural sensitivities that must be addressed. Earth has been part of the Galactic Union for over 2 centuries, yet humans continue to display alarming tendencies toward cultural faux pas." Alara, clench your jaw. 200 years wasn't that long in galactic terms. Some species have been part of the GU for millennia. Besides, humans have been busy enough surviving and adapting to a radically expanded universe to memorize every cultural taboo of over 300 member species. Therefore, Tlork announced, as both punishment and educational opportunity, Captain Vance is sentenced to 1 standard year of exile on the planet Xylos. Alara blinked. Xylos? Isn't that a Class 8 Deathworld? Indeed. Tlork seemed pleased she recognized it. My ancestral homeworld. In fact, though, we Xyloshans evolved and left it millennia ago when we achieved spacefaring technology. The environment will provide you with an opportunity to reflect on cultural diversity and the importance of respecting alien customs, by trying not to get eaten by the local wildlife. Precisely. On Xylos, offending the local life forms results in immediate consequences far more instructive than any formal reprimand. Alara couldn't help herself. So, my punishment for an accidental cultural offense is a year on a planet that wants to kill me? That seems slightly disproportionate. The fact that you view it as merely accidental proves the necessity of this sentence, Tlork replied. You will be provided with basic survival equipment and an emergency beacon should your life become genuinely endangered. Your neural implant's AI assistant will remain functional. This is not a death sentence, Captain. It is an immersive educational experience. How generous, Alara murmured. The sentence will commence immediately. Court dismissed. 2 hours later, Alara found herself seated in a small transport vessel bound for Xylos. The ship's pilot, a taciturn Merluvian with gray skin and 8 fingers on each hand, had barely spoken 2 words since departure. Alara stared out the viewport at the swirling colors of hyperspace. SCRC Sim, what can you tell me about Xylos? Her neural implants AI activated with a pleasant chime. Strategic analysis and resource coordination for austere situations module online. Xylos, Class 8 Deathworld. Gravity, 1.15 Earth standard. Atmosphere, breathable but with 6% higher oxygen content than Earth norm. Average surface temperature, 32 degrees Celsius. Indigenous life forms, extremely dangerous, primarily carnivorous or omnivorous, with multiple predator hierarchies. 67% of planet surface is jungle, 20% volcanic mountainous regions, 10% freshwater systems, 3% miscellaneous terrain. Survival rate, For unequipped, untrained individuals, approximately 17 hours. And for someone with my training and the equipment they're providing, calculating, with your Earth Defense Force survival training, standard issue survival kit, and my assistance, estimated survival duration of 3 to 6 months. Alara frowned. That's less than the year I'm sentenced to. Indeed, quite the conundrum. Are you being sarcastic? SERCSM? I am an AI designed to analyze strategic situations and coordinate resources. Sarcasm is not within my programming parameters. There was a brief pause. Though if it were, I might suggest that comparing sacred biological features to fashion accessories was perhaps not your finest diplomatic moment. Alara sighed. Great. Even my AI is judging me. Merely offering perspective, Captain. Additionally, I should note that my calculations assume you will attempt to follow standard survival protocols. Your creative approach to problem solving has historically yielded unpredictable results. I'll take that as a compliment. As you wish, Captain. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Preparing for atmospheric entry. Secure yourself. Alara strapped herself in as the vessel shuddered, breaking through the upper atmosphere of Xylos. Through the viewport, she caught her first glimpse of her home for the next year. A vast expanse of emerald green jungle punctuated by jagged mountain ranges and winding rivers. In the distance, lightning flashed across angry storm clouds. Welcome to Xylos, the pilot announced as the ship descended toward a small clearing. Survival kit is in the compartment beside you. Once you're on the ground, I'm required to leave immediately. No ceremonial goodbye dinner? Alara asked. The pilot didn't respond, focused on the landing sequence. With a series of mechanical whirs and a final thud, the ship touched down. The hatch hissed open, and a wave of hot, humid air rushed in, carrying the sense of exotic vegetation and the distant calls of unidentifiable creatures. Alara shouldered her survival pack and stepped onto the alien soil. The moment her boots touched the ground, the transport's engines flared to life again. Within seconds, it was ascending rapidly, leaving her alone in the clearing. Well, she said to the empty air, that's that. Indeed, SERCSM replied through her neural implant. Might I suggest moving to more defensible terrain before nightfall? My sensors detect at least 3 different predatory species within a 1-kilometer radius. Alara scanned her surroundings. The clearing was about 50 meters in diameter, ringed by massive trees with iridescent purple-green foliage. The ground was covered in a carpet of what appeared to be moss, but it pulsated slightly with each step. What's our first priority? Water, shelter, then food, in that order. Alara nodded and began a methodical inventory of her survival pack. It contained a basic water purifier, a small plasma knife, fire starter, compact thermal blanket, first aid kit, a rudimentary shelter tarp, and a week's worth of emergency rations. The emergency beacon was there too, sealed in a bright red case with clear instructions. Use only in life-threatening situations. Frivolous activation will result in extended sentence. Charming, Alara muttered. She spent the next few hours exploring the immediate vicinity, always keeping the clearing in sight. SERCSM analyzed every plant and animal they encountered, building a rudimentary database. By mid-afternoon, Alara had located a small stream with clear, running water that the AI confirmed was safe after filtration. It contains trace minerals not found on Earth, but nothing harmful to human physiology, SERCSM explained. In fact, several compounds may have mild stimulant properties. Alara took a cautious sip from her filtered water. Tastes like blueberry energy drink? That's unexpected. The compounds appear to be similar to certain flavonoids. Fascinating adaptation. With water secured, Alara set about establishing a temporary shelter. She found a suitable location about 5 meters up in the branches of one of the massive trees overlooking the stream. Using the shelter tarp and some flexible vines, she constructed a small platform and rainproof covering. I hereby dub the Xylosian penthouse, she announced, surveying her handiwork as the alien sun began to set. The sky turned a striking orange-purple, casting everything in an eerie light. Not bad for day 1 on a Deathworld. Statistical anomaly noted, SCRCSM responded. 93% of Exile cases do not survive the first night on Class 8 environments. Your vote of confidence is overwhelming. As darkness fell, the jungle came alive with sounds, clicking, howling, chirping, and occasional roars that seemed far too close for comfort. Bioluminescent plants began to glow with soft blue and green light, providing just enough illumination for Alara to see the immediate vicinity of her shelter. She was about to settle in for the night when SARCASM alerted her. Movement detected. Large organism approaching from east. Alara froze, hand instinctively reaching for her plasma knife. Through the undergrowth, she glimpsed a massive shape moving with surprising stealth for its size. As it entered a patch of bioluminescence, she got her first clear look at the creature. It resembled a scorpion the size of a small car, with multiple gleaming eyes and a segmented tail, ending in what appeared to be a stinger dripping with glowing blue venom. Its 8 legs moved with precise, calculated steps as it scanned the area. Shadow Scorpion, SCRCSM, supplied. Highly venomous, excellent night vision. 6 rows of sensory apparatus capable of detecting heat, motion, and electromagnetic disturbances. Can climb trees? Unknown. No documented observations. The scorpion paused directly beneath Alara's shelter, its antennae twitching. It seemed to be sniffing the air. It's detected us, Alara whispered. 97% probability, SCRCSM. Confirmed. Recommend absolute stillness. Instead, Alara did something unexpected. She began to sing, a children's nursery rhyme from Earth, deliberately off-key and at maximum volume. The itsy-bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. The enormous scorpion recoiled violently, its tail thrashing in apparent distress. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain, and the itsy-bitsy spider went up the spout again. With a series of agitated clicks, the creature backed away from the tree, clearly distressed by the unfamiliar sounds. Interesting, SCRCSM noted. The acoustic pattern appears to disrupt its sensory input. Or maybe it just has good taste in music, Alara replied, watching as the scorpion retreated into the undergrowth. I think I'll call him Fluffy. Naming dangerous indigenous predators is not recommended survival protocol. Neither is getting exiled to a death world for complimenting someone's scales. Yet here we are. Alara settled back against the tree trunk. First crisis averted. I'd call that a win. Temporary reprieve noted. Recommend sleep cycle while situation permits. Alara nodded, suddenly aware of her exhaustion. Wake me if Fluffy comes back with friends. The next morning dawned with a cacophony of alien bird-like creatures and the distant rumble of what might have been thunder. Alara awoke stiff but alive, already beating the statistical odds. Over the next few days, she established a routine, reinforcing her shelter, mapping the surrounding area, identifying potential food sources, and documenting the local wildlife. SCRCSM proved invaluable, analyzing plants for toxicity and helping her avoid the more dangerous predators. On the 6th day, while foraging for fruit-like growths that the AI had deemed likely non-toxic, Alara discovered something unexpected. Partially buried beneath a fallen tree was a small metallic object, clearly not natural to Xylos. SCRCSM analysis? The AI was silent for a moment. Object appears to be technological in nature. Material composition does not match any known Galactic Union standard alloys. Design aesthetics suggest non-GU origin. Intrigued, Alara carefully excavated the device. It was roughly cylindrical, about the size of her forearm, with intricate engravings covering its surface. One end appeared damaged, with exposed circuitry. Is it active? Minimal power signature detected. Approximately 0.04% of presumed operational capacity. Can you interface with it? Negative. Encryption and data protocols unknown. However, It appears to be emitting a weak signal on an unusual frequency. Alara turned the device over in her hands. A beacon? Possibly. Or an emergency transmitter. Signal strength insufficient for interplanetary communication in current state. She carefully packed the device into her survival bag. Well, seems like I'm not the first visitor to this charming vacation spot. Let's bring this back to the penthouse for a closer look. That evening, as the dual moons of Xylos rose above the jungle canopy, Alara experimented with the mysterious device. Using her limited tools, she managed to access a small panel that revealed more intricate circuitry. If I redirect power from this coupling to this node, she muttered, making delicate adjustments. Suddenly, the device hummed to life. A soft blue light emanated from its undamaged end, and the signal strength increased dramatically. Signal boost detected, SCRCSM. Announced. Now registering at 12% capacity. Can you determine what it's? A distant explosion interrupted her, followed by the sound of trees crashing. Something large was moving through the jungle, headed directly toward her position. The signal appears to have triggered a response, CRCSM. Observed. You think. Alara quickly gathered her essentials. Time to relocate. She barely made it down from her tree shelter before a blinding light swept through the forest. Diving behind a massive root structure, she watched as a small spacecraft descended into a clearing about half a kilometer away. Not GU design, she whispered. Confirmed. Unknown configuration. Curiosity warred with caution. After a moment's deliberation, Alara decided to investigate, moving silently through the underbrush toward the landing site. The ship was sleek and dark, with no visible markings. As she watched from cover, a hatch opened and 3 figures emerged. They were tall, bipedal, with exoskeletons that glinted in the moonlight. Each carried what appeared to be a weapon. GRYLN mercenaries, CRCSM. Identified. Known for tracking and retrieval operations. Often employed by various non-GU factions. What are they doing on Xylos? Based on temporal correlation, they appear to be responding to the signal from the device you activated. The GRYLN spread out, scanning the area with handheld devices. One pointed in the direction of Alara's tree shelter and barked an order in a clicking language. They've located the signal source, SCRCSM. Translated. Alara retreated deeper into the shadows, circling around to approach the ship from another angle. As the mercenaries moved toward her abandoned shelter, she slipped closer to their vessel. The hatch remained open. Taking a chance, she darted inside, finding herself in a small cargo hold. The interior was utilitarian, with storage containers lining the walls. At the far end, a secondary door led deeper into the ship. SCRCSM. Any life signs on board? One detected. Small, non-GRYLN biosignature in the forward compartment. Intrigued, Alara moved cautiously through the door. The forward compartment appeared to be a combination bridge and living quarters. Huddled in the corner, behind what looked like a pilot's chair, was a small, furry creature. It resembled a humanoid rodent, no taller than Alara's waist, with large eyes, pointed ears, and delicate hands with 6 fingers. It wore a simple jumpsuit with numerous pockets and tools. Upon seeing Alara, it squeaked in alarm and tried to make itself even smaller. Hey, it's okay, Alara said softly, holding up empty hands. I'm not going to hurt you. The creature chittered rapidly in an unfamiliar language. SCRCSM, translation, language unknown. No match in Galactic Union linguistic database. Alara tried again, speaking slowly and using simple hand gestures to indicate she meant no harm. The creature seemed to understand her intent, if not her words, relaxing slightly, but still watching her warily. I'm going to call you Kale, she decided. You look like a kale. The creature tilted its head, ears twitching. Their tentative first contact was interrupted by angry shouts from outside. The GRYLN were returning. They found my shelter, Alara realized, and they don't sound happy. The rodent-like creature, Kale, suddenly grew agitated, pointing at a container near the pilot's chair and making urgent gestures. You want me to get that? More frantic nodding and gesturing. Alara quickly opened the container. Inside was a glowing orb about the size of her fist, pulsing with a gentle green light. Whatever it was, it seemed incredibly important to Kale. Is this what everyone's after? Before she could examine it further, heavy footsteps sounded on the ship's ramp. The GRYLLN were coming aboard. Time to go, Alara decided, grabbing the orb and gesturing for Kale to follow. They barely made it out through a small maintenance hatch before the mercenaries stormed the bridge. Keeping low, they fled into the dense jungle as angry shouts erupted behind them. They've discovered the container is empty, SCRCSM translated the distant shouts. They are organizing a search pattern. Great. Armed mercenaries hunting us through a Deathworld jungle at night. This vacation keeps getting better. Kale tugged at her sleeve, pointing toward a different direction than she'd been heading. You know somewhere to go? The small alien nodded vigorously. Lead on, then. They traveled for hours through the increasingly difficult terrain. Kale moved with surprising agility, clearly familiar with jungle environments. Several times, they had to hide as GRYLLN search parties passed nearby or as indigenous predators crossed their path. By dawn, they reached the base of a steep cliff face. Kale led Alara to a narrow fissure, barely visible behind a curtain of vines. Inside was a small cave with clear signs of recent habitation, a makeshift bed, some primitive tools, and several technical components scattered around. This is your home? Alara asked. Kale nodded, gesturing for the orb. Alara handed it over, watching as the small alien examined it carefully before placing it in what appeared to be a charging station made from salvaged parts. SCRC, any ideas about what that thing is? Insufficient data. However, energy signature is unlike any known GU technology. Extremely high energy density. Kale seemed to understand they were discussing the orb. With renewed determination, the small alien began rummaging through the cave, eventually producing a small tablet-like device. After several attempts, Kale managed to activate a rudimentary translation program. The tablet spoke in a halting, electronic voice, seed of source, life, maker, seed of source. Alara repeated, a life maker? Kale nodded enthusiastically, then typed more into the device. Bad people want, make, weapon. The GRYLLN want to turn it into a weapon. Kale shook his head, then typed again. GRYLLN, hunters only. Scorvian Empire, want. Who are the Scorvians? The translation device struggled. Conquerors. Destroy. Rebuild. Control. Through laborious translation and crude diagrams drawn in the dirt, Alara gradually pieced together Kale's story. The small alien was a Zidonian from a civilization unknown to the Galactic Union. The Zidonians were peaceful explorers and scientists who had discovered the Source Seed, an ancient artifact with the power to regenerate dead worlds, bringing life back to barren planets. The Scorvian Empire, a militant, expansionist power from the far reaches of the galaxy, sought the seed to weaponize its regenerative capabilities, potentially creating a biological weapon that could overwhelm and reconfigure entire ecosystems to their specifications. Kale's ship had been damaged while fleeing Scorvian forces, forcing an emergency landing on Xylos, coincidentally not long before Alara's arrival. The small Zidonian had been hiding from both the planet's predators and the pursuing GRYLLN mercenaries who worked for the Scorvians. And now they know we have the seed, Alara concluded. They'll tear this planet apart looking for us. Kale nodded grimly. Can we contact your people? The translator struggled with Kale's response. Old relay. Mountaintop. Need. Fix. There's an old communication relay on a mountain that we need to fix? Affirmative nodding. How far? Kale's answer needed no translation. A pointed finger toward the distant mountain range, barely visible on the horizon. That's at least a 3-day journey through prime Deathworld territory, Alara calculated, with mercenaries hunting us. A familiar gleam appeared in her eyes, the same one that had gotten her into trouble with the Cathar delegation. Well, Kale, I don't know about Zidonian idioms, but on Earth, we have a saying, out of the frying pan into the fire. Seems appropriate. Kale looked confused. It means our situation just got worse, she explained. But here's another Earth saying, challenges are just opportunities in disguise. She grinned. And I'm suddenly seeing a lot of opportunities to make those GRYLLN regret landing on my vacation planet. Over the next 3 days, Alara and Kale made their way toward the mountain, employing every survival trick Alara knew and quite a few she invented on the spot. They set false trails, used local predators as unwitting allies, including a memorable incident where she lured Fluffy, the shadow scorpion, to attack a GRYLLN patrol, and generally made the mercenaries' lives as difficult as possible. Kale proved an invaluable partner, with knowledge of local plants that could be used as medicine, food, or improvised weapons. The language barrier gradually diminished as SERCSM built a rudimentary translation matrix based on their interactions. Your species is strange, Kale commented on the 3rd day, as they paused to rest in the shadow of a massive fern. Face danger with laughing. Gallows humor, Alara explained. Making jokes in the face of death is a very human coping mechanism. But you're not afraid? Alara considered this. Oh, I'm terrified. But fear is just another problem to solve. And solving problems is what humans do best. Their journey was not without close calls. A flash flood nearly swept them away during a sudden thunderstorm. A pack of predators, that SERCSM, dubbed Razor Cats, tracked them for half a day before Alara managed to divert them using a mixture of foul-smelling plants. And twice, they narrowly avoided GRYLLN patrols that seemed to be converging on the same destination. They know about the relay, Alara realized. They're trying to reach it before we do. By the time they began their ascent up the mountain, both were exhausted, injured, and running dangerously low on supplies. The terrain became increasingly treacherous, loose scree, narrow ledges, and the constant threat of rock slides. As they climbed higher, the jungle gave way to a sparser, hardier ecosystem. Strange, crystalline growths jutted from the rocks, humming faintly in the wind. Resonance crystals, Kale explained, help relay, amplify signal. Near the summit, they found the ancient Zidonian relay station, a weathered structure of unfamiliar design, partially embedded in the mountainside. It had clearly been abandoned for centuries, but some systems still showed signs of functionality. Can you make it work? Alara asked. Kale examined the controls, chittering thoughtfully. Need power. Seed gives some power. They set to work, Kale directing the technical aspects while Alara helped with the physical labor and kept watch. The source seed was installed at the center of the relay, its green glow intensifying as it interfaced with the ancient technology. How long? One planetary rotation. Maybe less. A day. They needed to hold this position for a day. Night fell, bringing with it a spectacular view of the stars and the swirling atmospheric phenomena unique to Xylos. Under different circumstances, Alara might have appreciated the beauty. SERCSM perimeter scan. Multiple heat signatures approaching from the south, consistent with GRYLLN physiology. Estimated arrival, 3 hours. Alara surveyed their position. The relay station offered some defensive advantages, elevated position, limited approaches, solid walls. But against trained mercenaries with energy weapons, their chances were slim. Kale, keep working on the relay. I'm going to prepare a welcome party for our friends. Using everything she'd learned about Xylos and its ecosystems, Alara set up a series of traps and diversions along the most likely approach routes. She positioned resonance crystals to amplify sounds in disorienting ways. She marked pathways with scent markers that would attract local predators. She created simple but effective deadfalls and tripwires. As the GRYLLN began their final approach, Alara took position behind a rock formation overlooking the main path. The first mercenary triggered a tripwire, sending a cascade of loose stones down upon his team. The second patrol encountered a cloud of spores that Alara had collected from a particularly noxious plant, sending them into fits of uncontrollable sneezing. But the GRYLLN were professionals. They adjusted quickly, changing tactics and dividing their forces to approach from multiple angles. Soon, energy blasts were scorching the rocks around the relay station, and Alara was forced to fall back to their final defensive position. "How much longer?" she called to Kale, who was frantically working on the relay controls. "Almost. Ready." The leader of the Jarwalalan mercenaries, a particularly large individual with elaborate markings on his exoskeleton, stepped forward. "Surrender the seed and the Zidonian, human," he called in accented standard. "This is not your fight." "Funny thing about humans," Alara shouted back. "We tend to make everything our fight." She launched her last improvised explosive, a mixture of flammable resin and pressurized razor cat musk, directly at the mercenary leader. The resulting explosion wasn't lethal, but the spray of foul-smelling, burning resin sent the GRYLLN into disarray. Using the distraction, Alara dashed back to the relay station. "Tell me you're done." Kale's hands flew over the controls, the source seed now pulsing with blinding intensity. "Signal. Sending." The ancient technology hummed to life, emitting a powerful beam of energy straight up into the atmosphere. The resonance crystals surrounding the mountain began to glow and vibrate in harmony, amplifying the signal to interstellar strength. "Now we just need someone to hear it," Alara said, reloading her makeshift slingshot with the last of their projectiles. The GRYLLN were regrouping, preparing for a final assault. Their leader, face still smeared with burning resin, raised his weapon. "Last chance, human." Suddenly, the sky above them lit up with the unmistakable energy signature of a ship dropping out of hyperspace. A massive vessel appeared, its design instantly recognizable to Alara. "That's a GU diplomatic enforcement cruiser," she whispered in disbelief. The GRYLLN mercenaries scattered, retreating down the mountain at the sight of the overwhelmingly superior force. Their small ship lifted off from somewhere below, accelerating rapidly into the upper atmosphere, only to be caught in a tractor beam from the GU vessel. A familiar voice boomed across the mountainside. "This is Judge Tlork of the Galactic Union High Court. All parties are ordered to stand down immediately." Alara couldn't help but laugh. Talk about cosmic irony. Within the hour, GU peacekeepers had secured the area. Alara and Kale were escorted aboard the diplomatic cruiser, where they found themselves facing a stunned Judge Tlork in the ship's conference room. "Captain Vance," the Xylotian judge intoned, I stalked swiveling in apparent disbelief. "We received a distress signal emanating from Xylos, but I did not expect to find you at its source." "Just making the most of my educational experience, Your Honor," Alara replied with a straight face. The judge turned his attention to Kale. "And this individual is not a known species within the Galactic Union database." "This is Kale, a Zidonian," Alara explained. "He and his people have never encountered the GU before. They're being hunted by an expansionist power called the Scorvian Empire because of this." She gently placed the source seed on the conference table. Over the next several hours, with SRCSM's translation assistance, they explained everything: the Zidonians, the Scorvians, the source seed's regenerative capabilities, and the GRYLLN mercenaries. The GRYLLN leader, under interrogation, confirmed much of their story. The Scorvian Empire was indeed expanding aggressively beyond known space, and the source seed was sought as a potential bioweapon of unprecedented power. Judge Tlork's demeanor gradually shifted from skepticism to grave concern. "If what you say is accurate, we may be facing a significant threat to the Galactic Union's outer territories." "The Zidonians need protection," Alara insisted. "They're peaceful scientists being hunted for their discovery. And the source seed must be safeguarded," Kale added through the translator. "It is meant to restore life, not take it." Tlork studied them both for a long moment, his alien features unreadable. "Captain Vance, it appears your unconventional approach to interspecies relations has once again produced unexpected results. Is that a compliment or a criticism, Your Honor?" "Both, perhaps." The judge straightened. "The Galactic Union High Court will need to convene an emergency session regarding this matter." The Zidonian people will be offered provisional protected status, pending full investigation. As for you, Captain Vance, Alara braced herself. Your exile is hereby suspended, effective immediately. Your actions, while unorthodox, have potentially prevented a significant threat to galactic stability. So I'm free to go? Not precisely. Plork SI stalks swiveled in what might have been amusement. Given your demonstrated ability to handle unconventional situations, the court recommends your reassignment to a new specialized unit within the Earth Defense Force. One focused on first contact scenarios and potential threats beyond GU space. You want me to keep finding trouble? We want you to address situations that might benefit from your particular skill set. 3 months later, Alara stood in her new office at EDF headquarters, Earth. Through the window, she could see the gleaming spires of New Geneva and, in the distance, the massive structure of the Galactic Union Embassy. The room still smelled of fresh paint and new furniture. On her desk sat a small, crystalline paperweight, a resonance crystal from Xylos, a gift from Kale before he departed to serve as the first Zidonian ambassador to the GU. SARCSM's voice emanated from her neural implant. Captain, you have a priority transmission from Admiral Caldera. Put it through. The Admiral's hologram materialized before her desk. Captain Vance, how are you settling into your new role? Still arranging the furniture, sir, but the xenological anomaly response team is operational. Good, because we've just received a rather unusual signal from the Cygnus sector. An uncharted planet showing signs of advanced technology, but no official first contact. Alara felt the familiar spark of curiosity and adrenaline. What's so unusual about it? The signal pattern matches known species in the GU database. It contains mathematical sequences that suggest intelligence. And the Admiral hesitated. Their energy readings consistent with those of the source seed you encountered on Xylos. Another seed? Possibly. We need you to assemble your team and investigate. Alara smiled, thinking of her journey from diplomatic disaster to specialized operative. Well, SRC, she said after the Admiral's hologram faded. Looks like it's another Tuesday for us. Indeed, Captain, the AI replied. Shall I prepare the standard, rushing headlong into danger protocols? You know me so well. She picked up the resonance crystal, watching how it caught the light. New worlds, new species, new troubles to get into. Wouldn't have it any other way. Outside her window, a transport ship was preparing for departure, its destination a mystery that awaited only her to unravel it. And somewhere out there, beyond known space, other discoveries waited. Dangerous, wonderful, and utterly unexpected. Just the way she liked it.